I like am on this level up quest, and all of this has been a 10-year journey just with all of the variety of experiences and things that I've had to really hone in and get on. And that entrepreneurship, I think, is like you can take the hard road to an easy life or the easy road to a hard life. My name is Vanetta Schoefield. It's such an honor to be here. Thank you for having me on a trip to India to talk about my comedy journey. I had an internship in college, and I got this from Twitter. There was a radio dude online, and he was like, I need an assistant. And he was putting together something and had snow cones. He needed a snow cone maker. He was like, I need someone to help me with this. I need someone to help me with this. He was like, I need an assistant. And I just DM'd him or I at him, and I was like, hey, my mom and them, they do this snow cone thing. Shout out to my mom. she did this snow cone thing, and I was like, yo, I would love to be your assistant or whatever. So I had moved to Greensboro. I went to UNC Chapel Hill, so I moved 45 minutes away to be in this area, to be this dude on the radio's assistant. We had this group, and it was a group of guys. They do freestyle funny comedy, right? So they had improv shows, and games, and they would have their individual stand-ups. And I worked on behind the scenes of that. I would sit in meetings with him. I would petition games, kind of pitch games as ideas. And I would just I worked on building their brand, to be honest. This was my first experience of it though. So I didn't know how important I was, I'm 23. I am just having the time of my life working with these comedians. And I was also writing for a graphic designer who had his own magazine. So they were a branding agency. They had a green screen office, they had a photographer, and then they had this graphic designer. And so with my work with them and my work with the comedians, I brought them all together. And I brought the comedians into the office to get branded. But 3 months after that whole branding experience and that work with that, one of those comedians got on Wild 'N Out. And that comedian is Chico Bean. That was my first experience with comedy. And when you're at a low place and you think about, damn, what was the best thing I did? What was the best time I had? What was a really good experience? If I could do anything. And I thought back to how that was an amazing experience and how I was really good at it. So I wanted to go back to comedy, but I wanted to do it differently because I didn't want to be behind the scenes anymore. I wanted to do it for me. Again, I did this for other products, I work with other people and their stuff, but what about me? And I just focused on me. I focused on honing certain skills that I wanted to have and developed, and that was comedy. I went to UCB, which is Upright Citizens Brigade, and that's where a lot of people that get on NBC shows and all that, the writers, that's where they go and they study. I took improv, so I took a character class. I took all of these classes about how to write and just build, and I took a stand-up class. And after that, I got on stage, and the rest is pretty much not history, but just developing and, growing. I did New York for 5 years, and over the course of that time, and seeing all the Black women not really getting their shine, or I'm the one Black woman. One of my colleagues joked, I was like, oh, you booked me because I'm Black. She's like, no, I didn't book you because you're Black. I booked you because you're Black and pretty. I hated that. And I also hated what I get from the audience when I'm walking up and I'm about to perform. Oh, you're a comedian? Oh, you don't look funny. Or you're not gonna be funny. So it was all of that. It was a lack of representation. It was, seeing how my colleagues really fucking viewed me. It was a lot of that shit put together that was you know what? I'm gonna actually market this. And I'm gonna monetize off what y'all really have this view of. Because yes, I'm funny and I'm a honey, and I'm going to be a funny honey, and I'm going to do this for me and other women that look like me. So there's a place and a space and a platform for us. So I took that on and I created Funny Hunnyz. So I thought of the idea for the festival summer of 2020 because George Floyd had just happened. I was undergoing surgery for my fibroids that I had. So like I couldn't get out and protest because I'm just like, I don't know what's going on. So thought of the idea for the festival summer of 2020. And so I'm moving from New York to Atlanta. I'm like, well, I'll do the festival in Atlanta because I wanted to do a black festival for black comedians. I'm like, oh, bet, got it. So as I started to work on it and plan it, I got booked for this show. And so I get booked for the show and I'm hyped because I'm like, this is gonna be the money that I can put the festival on with. Dope. So I go to, they sent me a COVID test before I go to the studio. And I wasn't feeling all hot, but I thought I was just like, because I was tired.
Oh, wow.
My car is outside to take me to the studio, and I get my email of my results that were positive for COVID. So I could not go, I couldn't go and film the show. And so, like, I was crushed. Not only did I, like, fly myself to New York, you know, because they thought I lived in New York, because I was like, just like, I'm like, hey, so anyway, so I flew to New York, had to fly back with COVID. I'm not even supposed, like, it was, so all of that happened, and I did not have the opportunity to be on the show, and I was like, I still want to put this festival together. So I ended up finding a sponsor through Bacardi, and it's funny because I had COVID again in March. Like, so I was like wanting to go to this gala to network and meet other people, entrepreneurs, people that I could pitch to support the fest, because I'm like, I'm still gonna do this damn festival. A lot of things fell through with that. So I ended up reaching out to Bacardi, and what's crazy is we're filming this at the Gathering Spot, and the Gathering Spot has a lot of events sponsored by Bacardi. I'm on this meeting with this man, and I'm like, hey, I was supposed to go to this gala, but I had COVID, so I couldn't make it. And he's like, oh, you would have met me there. So I meet the main man who produces and who does majority, the multicultural manager of Bacardi, who is also very integrated here at the Gathering Spot. We were on a Zoom call. Like, so it's just crazy because I had COVID and I got a chance to actually connect with him in a way that I would not have if I met him at the gala. So I took that as a sign. Bacardi ended up sponsoring the fest. They gave me a little money. They didn't give me as much as I was gonna get on the game show, but I'm still, you know, seeing it through between that, my client work, whatever. So me and Bacardi produced the festival and put it on, and it was Juneteenth, and right, like June 7th, right when I'm like planning it and everything, I had just got booked for Fox 5 Atlanta. So they was coming, like, I was gonna be on Zoom, but I was gonna be like talking about the fest. I was so excited. And on that day, I get a text from my private landlord, and it's like, hey, I'm moving my daughter in. So you got until July. So like I'm already low on funds with the fest. I didn't have the funding that I wanted, and I still had to kind of pull it through and see it through. And I'm not for 1 second was like, well, fuck these niggas, I gotta live. You know, like, not, I know plenty that would have, but I still saw it through, I still made it. And you know what's crazy? I guess the triumphant part of it is, you know, if I didn't have those sacrifices, those 40 comedians would not have had that experience that they did. And they got a lot of networking experiences, opportunities. They still continuously work together now outside of the fest. We did like complimentary headshots for everyone. So I had photographers pull up. I had my homeboy who does an amazing podcast. Shout out to Ezel Moon. He came through and recorded podcasts with all of the artists and stuff. So, you know, they got exposure, they got to network. They got, of course, stage time, so I wouldn't trade that. Seeing shit that needed to be done and doing it. Seeing spaces that needed to be created and creating them. I think that's just it, because if you could take that from me, you could take that, listen, if they don't welcome you, welcome yourself. Like, there's nothing that you can't do if you don't feel welcome or safe in a space, bro, create your own. So if there isn't anything that you take from me, do that shit and do it with a fire brand, okay? Funny Hunnyz is Of course, my baby, and she will be turning 3. And as I grow, of course, she grows. So we are not just your go-to for live entertainment and comedy. However, we are a creative brand agency, and we will have a physical, amazing studio 2022 for all of your creative branding needs. We're the brand that builds brands. So we are going to help you with your brand. Funny Hunnyz with a Z.com/services to just learn more about what we offer. But we're full service, logo, websites, headshots, anything a creative brand needs, to market yourself. We provide that. So that in the midst of planning the amazing 1865, y'all. This next Juneteenth is gonna be crazy. You have no idea, like, for real. I ain't gonna hold you, man. This is gonna be the best shit ever. So 1865, Funny Hunnyz, Vanetta Schoefield, thank y'all.